Hey everybody, welcome to Morning Coffee. It's your girl Tammy coming at you today with an encouraging word. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. Hope you're ready for the journey. So like I said in Friday's video on last week, I did let you know that starting in the new year, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Instead of coming every day, going to be coming to you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with a little more in-depth word instead of just a 1 minute, 2 minute here and there. And hoping just to still increase your faith, still deepen your walk with God, but just going to give you a little more quality and not necessarily quantity of videos. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Tammy. This is a Christian-based channel. Just giving a encouraging word to increase your faith and deepen your walk with God. So if that's something you're interested in, please subscribe below, like and share, so that you can get that encouragement Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I'm just going to hop right in. We are starting with the Book of Ruth, and I'm just going to go through different books and different areas of the Bible to just get a further in-depth look at those books and try to maybe glean some things that maybe you didn't see the first time you read, or maybe you've just never thought of it that way. And so that's what we're going to do. Please excuse my voice. It's coming and going, so please excuse my voice. But we're going to hop right in. Just going to start. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for us to get through the Book of Ruth. Ruth is a pretty short book, but like I said, we're just going to take our time and try to break everything down. I'm just going to start with chapter 1. I'm just going to read quickly through and stop at different things and just kind of go through and explain some things. So starting in Ruth chapter 1 verse 1, it says, "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. This man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion, and they were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab, and they lived there." So I'm just going to stop right here for a second, because I just want to break this down first so that we can kind of get the context of where we're looking. So Elimelech and his wife Naomi and his 2 sons, they were from Bethlehem. They served God. This was where they lived. This was where their relatives were, their family were. This is where they served their God. And there was a famine in the land at that time. And so they left that land and they went to Moab. Now, Moab was a pagan city. And so I want you to keep that context in mind. They left the city of their God. They left their relatives, their friends, things that they knew, their God, people of like faith, and they left there to go to live temporarily. That was the plan, temporarily to live in Moab, which was a pagan city. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we'll keep going. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women. One name was Orpah, and the other was Ruth. After they had lived there for about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and without her husband. So what started out to be a temporary move to try to get away from the famine actually ended up being more of a longer term stay with some loss. So loss of her husband, loss of her 2 sons, and now she is left with her 2 daughter-in-laws who are also without husbands. So we're going to keep going here. At verse 6, it says, "When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughter-in-laws prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughter-in-laws, she left the place where she'd been living, and she set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Now, I want to, whenever we read the Bible, and of course, I was saying the importance of keeping everything in context. We want to look at it in the context that it's in, and then kind of think and say, okay, how does this apply to me? What lessons can I glean from what I'm reading? So, just in these verses alone, verses 1 through, and we stopped at verse 7, 1 through 7, the first 7 verses, we can see kind of two themes arising here. One, that we can relate to our own lives. So, one, sometimes we can start off serving God and we're living in an area maybe where we are with our families, with our relatives, with like minded faith people. And when things get hard, they were in a famine, so it wasn't easy for them. But when things get hard, we tend to sometimes move away from the God we know. We move away because we think maybe I'm looking at somebody else who's maybe not serving God, or looking at somebody else who's doing other things and they look like they're prospering. I'm going to leave where I am and what I know, and I'm going to go over here to somewhere that they don't serve my God. This is a different people. And once they got there, it did not turn out the way they thought it was going to turn. And so once calamity had come, she lost her husband, she lost her 2 sons. Then it's like, okay, God is providing. It said in here, when Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them. So she heard, here she is in this pagan place, but she heard, hey, God is providing in Bethlehem. God is providing in that place that you left. So she decides to take her daughter-in-law and they leave where they are, it says, and they go back. They decide to go back and return to the land of Judah. And so they leave the place of this pagan city and they return back to God. So it's almost like a returning back. If you've kind of lost your way or gone away from God and you go to this pagan city, or you go to the world's way for a while, and all of a sudden you get this wake up call like, wait a minute, my God is still providing back here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to leave this pagan city and I'm going to go back to the God I know. I'm going to go back to the land that I know. And so they make that journey, and she takes her 2 daughter-in-laws with her. So I'm going to stop right there for today, but I just wanted to get you to kind of think about, most of the time when we think about the book of Ruth, we always go straight to Ruth and Boaz. But I think we forget some of these other points and things that we can glean from the book, because this book is not just about finding a Boaz. It's not just about finding a man and being in the right place to let that man find you. It's not all about that. There's so much richness in this book, and there's so many other deeper meanings that you can pull out of this book. And that's what I want to get you to see as we go through it together. So I'm going to start right there because I don't want to cover too much in one session, but I want to kind of go through and have you just think about that. Think about the fact that they left the place, they left the God they knew, and they went to this other pagan city, and they went with the intention of living a better life, but it really didn't end up better for them. And then they ended up returning back to God. They came back to what they knew, came back to the place of Judah. So I just want you to think about that today and just start to really look at Ruth in a different way and in a different light so that we can continue to glean from it. So stay tuned. On Friday, we will be picking up right where we left off, and we're going to be continuing to work through the book of Ruth. Talk soon. Be blessed today.